What is going on, grinders? No, I am not Dean. No, Keith is not Chief or anyone else. It's a two-man booth today. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully, we're able to bring you guys some nuggets. And guess what, folks? We're going to kick this thing off right. No delay. We're pumping it up right now. Right now, 9 games. Let's get rolling. I hope we don't get in trouble. Yay. Do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. Anyway, here we go. I'm ready. I'm ready to get this show started. Keith, my friend, how is everything in your neck of the woods, on your side of the world? This is going to be a good show. Let's get it rolling.
Yeah, Dean decided to bail on us, so we have the intimate show today, as Dean might say, but we're going to miss him. Got an interesting slate to break down here. A couple of aces, pretty spread out offense all across the board. No team really standing out to me. I don't know how you feel about it, but yeah, this will be a good one here. Just me and you.
Yeah, just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us, you and I, on this show, that is. So I'm ready, man. And so we're going to kick this thing right off, and we're going to start with pitching. But before that, come on, folks. You already know. NFL preseason has started. We've got RG OGs, PSU fans, all these guys taking down tournaments, and PSU is bringing his knowledge to the expertise survey, bringing his expertise to RG. Of course, he's going to do college football as well. I'll let them talk about that. But, you know, with that premium subscription, you're going to get premium projections for Lineup HQ. And don't forget to hang out in the Discord. We've got Chief's Prop Shop in the Discord. I'm Chief. I have a prop shop. It's free. If you have an RG subscription, just hop in there. Make some money and get ready for NFL, right? Also, for NFL, get that premium NFL subscription at a discount. It's $299.99. That's going to be one of the cheapest spots in the industry. You know, there are other companies out there. I've been an RG, not only an analyst, but a member since as long as I can remember. I had a paid subscription. Back in those days, I paid for Roto Academy right out of my own pocket, and I was able to gain knowledge and get better at DFS. You want to get better at DFS? Be a member. Become premium. Pay the $299. Take down some NFL tournaments. We want to see your names at the top of the leaderboards. Speaking of Fanduel, DraftKings, and all these other DFS sites, Fanduel has a single entry series, folks, and it's back $50,000. That's right. You heard it here, not first. You've been hearing it every day, all week. $50,000 is up for grabs. Top 4 scores each week are going to get themselves a seat at the live final. And that's going to be in Chicago on September 9th. And the grand prize is going to be $10,000. Be sure to get in there. Those contests do fill very expeditiously. Keith, all right, we got the particulars out of the way. Let's talk about this slate. I know everybody likes to talk pitching.
Man, I just want to say that was an incredible job. You're acting like you do this every single day or something, man. Just a great job with those reads.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I don't get to host very often, so I don't get a chance to mess it up very often. So, at any rate, we usually start at pitching. We've got slight weather concerns in some games. I don't think it's going to be too bad. If you want to hang out and talk weather, talk to Kevin Roth. He's on Twitter. He's approachable. He's a likable guy. Not only is he likable, he's got kids. So he understands patience. He knows you guys are going to beat up on him when Washington cancels their game when it doesn't rain every year, but once a year. He's already ready for it. But anyway, Kevin Roth is bringing the weather heat, and it looks like we're pretty much green, yellow, yellow, green all day. So slight concerns, but nothing that I think is too egregious that we're not going to be able to play around. And pitching. We usually start with pitching. What if we switch it up? What if we make it a little bit spicy today? And let's start with stacks. And let me tell you why I'm saying that. I think pitching is straightforward because we've got aces that we can utilize. I think the offenses today are where maybe we're saying we can use this offense. We can use a couple pieces here, a couple pieces there. a 2-man here, a 3-man there. I like this bat against this pitcher, but I don't really want to stack the team. So, Keith, let's start with bats, and we'll work our way backwards. I know that's out of the ordinary. Guess what, folks? We're going to do it my way. I'm not Dean. So that's the way we're going to do it today. Let's talk stacks. Let's talk hitting. We're going to hop around. I'm not going in any particular order, but we will cover the games. Keith, if you had to pick one offense today to kick this thing off, and you say, despite this crazy slate, where are you going to plant your flag for offense?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it at the top. I think it's really spread out today. I don't have strong conviction on any one team. You look at the totals across the board. Texas, it has the highest team total on the board, which is not something that we see very often. But facing a really weak
other side.
Yep, facing a weak starting pitcher there against Oakland. Mr. Aller has not had very much success this season, so certainly understand why they are grading out so well. Houston also is up there for me against Kopech, who just had a great outing his last time, but that was against Detroit. We're going to talk about Detroit plenty today because of the pitcher going against them, constantly targeting pitchers against that Detroit offense. Kopech has not had a great season. Ks have been down. Walks are up. Houston, a really talented offense. So definitely want to talk about them a little bit today. Always got to talk about the Dodgers. Super talented. No Will Smith in the lineup. Kind of threw a wrench into those plans a little bit. A team I really like today is Cleveland. The Guardians against Daniel Norris. Just not a very strong pitcher. Cleveland is not a team that's fun to stack a lot of times because they have a bunch of contact hitters, not a ton of power. J-Ram is obviously elite, but then it gets really difficult to figure out who to stack with him. I think that lowers their ownership a little bit, and for that reason, I really love Cleveland. The Mets are another team on my radar. Odorizzi has really struggled with lefties. Got 6 lefties in the Mets lineup today. They get the ballpark upgrade going into Atlanta away from their super pitcher-friendly home park of Citi Field. Odorizzi, a fly ball guy. I really like the way the Mets line up today. Just one thing to note on them, they do platoon quite a bit. So you've got Vogelbach, the lefties in the outfield, whether it's Nimmo or I'm losing the other guy right now that they guy came over from Cincinnati. No, not McNeil. Came over from Cincinnati. I'll find it here. We got plenty of time. Who am I talking about? He's not in the lineup today. Can is in there, so that actually helps. Yeah, the guy from Cincinnati not in the lineup. So Can in there already, less of a chance for him to get pinch hit because Naquin, thank you. That's the guy. I could not find that name for the life of me.
Yeah, I couldn't think of it either, but clearly, yeah.
we got our Mets fan producer behind the scenes here dropping it on us. So awesome stuff there. But yeah, love the way the Mets set up against Odorizzi. I think you can go even further off the board. Like I said, it's really spread out today. The Yankees against Kluber, I have some interest in. The Giants have a great matchup against Zach Davies. Like there are a dozen teams, I would say, on this slate that I don't think I would fault you one bit for saying I want to stack them. If I had to pick one, long way of saying, if I had to pick one, I think I'm going Houston against Kopech. I just don't believe what he did last time out. Detroit,
it was against
the weakest offense in baseball. Exactly. Kopech has had his real struggles this season, and Houston is an elite offense. So that'd be my lean if I had to pick one.
Well, what I will say is, I mean, if you're going Houston, outside of, and this is what we were talking about earlier, I like this bat, but maybe I don't want to stack the team. Outside of Yordan Alvarez on FanDuel, in that regard, you're not going to see a whole lot of ownership. If you hop over to DraftKings and you look at the ownership for Houston, I mean, it's even lower. Yordan's at 18%. I mean, it's fairly low ownership for most of this team tonight for a 9-game slate. You are going to see some ownership on some of these Texas bats, like Corey Seager is going to pull some ownership as he should most nights. I've got a team that I like, and I could absolutely be wrong about this. And this is a team that could get me in trouble, and I totally understand that. but it's really mostly because I don't believe in this guy as a legitimate like strikeout knockdown pitcher. That's Jordan Montgomery against Colorado in St. Louis. And I know these guys, these bats from Coors, we don't really like to play them outside of Coors, but I don't trust Jordan Montgomery here. I want to throw the Colorado Rockies in the mix, right? I'm not saying that they're like a primary stat, but I think we should definitely be considering them. If we could absolutely pull up Plate IQ early, Steve, our illustrious producer is going to pull it up for us. That would be amazing. When you look at Jordan Montgomery, and he's mostly going to be throwing sinker to righties, he's going to be throwing the curve as well. But when I look at these sinker numbers, the Rockies have pretty good contact numbers. Now, everybody doesn't have a lot of power, and so I fully acknowledge that. But Jordan Montgomery is a guy that could get BABIP today, right? Like he's not striking out 8 bats every night. Now, I know he did that the other night, okay? I'm fully aware of that, but that's not who he is. And so, for a guy like Montgomery, I don't hate Colorado here sneakily, especially you look at CJ Cron, 50% hard hit rate, 211 ISO. I think he's a good one-off candidate today. Brandon Rogers, similar situation, right? 96% contact rate, 50% hard hit rate, 438 ISO. He's another candidate. Wait a minute. Are we going to go over to Connor Joe? Now, the WOBA isn't great for him, but 95% contact rate, 250 ISO. These Rockies are starting to talk to me here a little bit. And so I think sneakily, if they can poke a few balls between the base paths, CJ Cron might be up with 2 men on base here to start this game early. So I really, really like the Rockies. Another team that you mentioned that I really like are the Giants facing Zach Davies, who I think Zach Davies came off the IL 3 or 4 games ago. First game was really bad. Second game was bad. Third game, coming around. I still think San Francisco has a shot here. He's another guy that's mostly going to be throwing sinker. Don't have incredible contact numbers all the way around, but almost this whole team is above 80% in terms of contact rates. Got a couple of guys that have, pretty nice hard hit rates. So I like the San Francisco Giants, even though they're in a ballpark that we typically don't like to utilize for hitting. I definitely think they're in a good spot. Let's talk about, and I think this is something that we can go ahead and get out of the way so people understand what we're doing. I'd like to just cross off teams, Keith. There are certain teams I'm just not going to play. And so on the other side of that game, when you're talking about Arizona, I'm just not touching Arizona today. No reason for me to get involved with them against Carlos Rodon. I know people think Tony Gonsolin is a fraud, and maybe he's a fraud in the strikeout department, but I'm not expecting Milwaukee to beat him up today. So I'm not playing anyone from the Brewers. You look at the White Sox. Yeah, Valdez, I think he could get lit up. He's probably going to walk a couple guys, but I'm not expecting him to give up 5 or 6 runs. And the White Sox have been absolutely dreadful for a stretch here. So I'm not playing the White Sox. I'm not playing anyone from Oakland, and that's just because they stink. I'm not playing any Braves. Like, Max Scherzer is going to give up a solo shot to someone. I don't know who it is, though. Could be Acuna, could be Olsen, could be Eddie Rosario, could be I have no clue. Could be Michael Harris. I don't want to play the guessing game because I also don't think he's giving up 6 runs. So the Braves are getting the scratch-off ticket today. I don't want to play anyone for the Detroit Tigers. I know Cal Quantrill isn't some stellar pitcher, but the Tigers are god-awful. Yeah, they're going to have a game where they pop for 8 runs. Most of the game, they're going to score negative 8 runs. Not playing anyone from Detroit. I'm not even playing anyone from Pittsburgh. Old man Rich Hill is on the mound, and he's going to be throwing, 60-mile-per-hour fastballs and, 20-mile-per-hour curveballs, and they're still not going to hit him. He's going to pick up strikeouts by default because this team, outside of, a couple guys that were in their farm system that they brought up and they like, they're not winning the game. They don't care about this season. So I'm not playing anyone from Pittsburgh. And then you come to this Yankees game. I'm with you. I like the Yankees. I definitely think they could pop off, but I still don't feel great about it. And Domingo K rate's very low this season. You think in my mind, I really want to stack the Rays because I'm not expecting Domingo to strike a lot of guys out. The problem is this team strikes out a ton with this particular lineup. I mean, it's dreadful. So I just wanted to scratch off teams, right? Now that we've got all these teams scratched off, we're pretty much left with the Yankees, the Guardians, the Red Sox, maybe, definitely the Mets. Like, I didn't want to hammer that point home. I'm going to let you continue to hammer the Mets. I think the Mets are one of the top teams on the slate today. Like, the Mets should score 8 to 9 runs here. And I'm not exaggerating. If you're in the sports books, I'm telling you right now, just go and hammer the Mets. Like, they should win this game easily. I mean, Jake Odorizzi, why did we bring him to Atlanta? I have no clue. I would have rather us go out and get – I would have taken Jordan Montgomery over Jake Odorizzi. Listen, I don't work in the front office. I get it. But to me, the Mets for me are like number one today. Like, that's like number one stat, and then I just start filtering in bats from everywhere else. But I think the Mets have a shot at 8 or 9 runs easily on this slate. Odorizzi is going to have trouble striking these guys out anyway. If you look at Plate IQ, and Steve, you don't have to pull this back up, but if you look at Plate IQ in the comforts of your own home, because you have a premium subscription and you can do so, these K rates are astronomically low for this team. I mean, he's going to have serious trouble striking out anyone. And I'm going to read them off. Brandon Nimmo, 15.3. Marte, 18.3. Lindor, 19.8. Alonso, 20.7. Vogelbach, 24.1. That's one of the highest strikeout guys on the team outside of McCann. Jeff McNeil, 12%. Mark Canha, 18%. He's going to have serious trouble with this lineup tonight. I'm definitely expecting a home run in the first quarter in the first inning, excuse me. You can tell I'm getting ready for football for one of these guys. I've been talking a lot. I know this. I'm going to hand it back over to you, Keith. I think the Mets are number one. We've talked about it. We've skirted around it. Clearly, I mean, probably one of the best matchups, some of the best hitting conditions on the slate. I know Texas is in a great spot, but this team can hit. What say ye about the New York Mets? Let's strengthen our argument here.
I am 100% on board on this call with you. We both do a lot for scores and odds. The prop I wrote up today for scores and odds is Jake Odorizzi under 4.5 strikeouts. So I'm exactly on the same lines of thinking with you. I mentioned these Mets lefties. Odorizzi has struck out less than 14% of lefties. You got guys like Vogelbach, Nimmo, McNeil. Just the Mets line up really well here. And even the righties, you've got tons of power in Alonso and Marte with a great skill set for fantasy as well. So I love this Mets stack. The one thing that I did touch on that I'm a little bit concerned about is that Vogelbach turns into Darren Ruff. Canha being in there already is really nice. I think you can fire him up without any concern for pinch hit risk. Escobar is lurking there. You've got the rookie Beatty at minimum price. This is a really good hitting prospect. He's lower in the order, but that minimum price, if you want to pay up for Scherzer and Rodon and your builds, he's one of those guys that I love to help me do that. So completely on board. You get a couple of cheap bats in there for the Mets. You pay up for the big power guys like Alonso and Vogelbach. Absolutely love the Mets today. Totally on board with you.
Yeah, and listen, we're going to get active today, folks. We're going to be active. I'm going to try my hardest to answer in-game questions. And what I mean by that is not a general slate question, but my boy Brian C. brings up a great question. He says, Chief, I got you. But where were the runs the last 2 nights? Just because they don't K doesn't mean runs. Brian, I got you. And I agree. Just because a team doesn't strike out, that doesn't mean that runs are going to be aplenty. Here's my argument about the Mets the past 2 nights. Last night, they faced Charlie Morton, who's a much better pitcher than Jake Odorizzi. Trust me. Charlie Morton also has strikeout stuff, which we saw was on display last night. The night before, they faced Spencer Strider, who is also a dynamic strikeout pitcher. And I'm not saying Morton's a dynamic strikeout pitcher. I'm saying he's a seasoned veteran. So he knows how to pitch around this team, get the punch outs when it's time, right? Okay? The night before, they're facing Spencer Strider, who is a young pitcher that has strikeout electric stuff, right? So the Mets have essentially faced the best pitchers that the Braves have to offer outside of maybe Max Fried, who I don't think they're going to see this series. So today, they're going to end up with Jake Odorizzi throwing spaghetti meatballs down the middle of the plate. I can assure you this, and I'm a Braves fan, so I don't feel bad about it. I hope we make the playoffs. I hope we make a run. It would be nice if we could get back to the World Series. That'd be fantastic. But on today's slate, I can assure you, Jake Odorizzi is going to get lit up. This I can assure you. I'll give you the numbers on Jake Odorizzi just in case. Not only is his K rate at 18.1%, this is what I love, Keith. This is what I love. The xFIP is at 5.59. He will be giving up runs, okay? There isn't any scenario today, I don't think, and I feel very confident about this. I'm not exaggerating. I don't think there's a scenario where Jake Odorizzi doesn't give up at least 5, unless he gives up 3 home runs back-to-back and they pull it. And 3 home runs back-to-back is very possible with Jake Odorizzi and his 43.9% fly ball rate and his 39.2% hard hit rate. And it's even worse to lefties, that 13.8% K rate and the 8.3% walk rate. He's going to have serious trouble. I cannot stress enough how much I like the Mets as the best stack on this slate. All right, hopefully that clears it up. Keith, I'm going to move to what I think is the second best stack, or let's say maybe one of the more popular stacks on the slate. I do think the Rangers are going to get really popular here against Adam Oller. Or Adam Oller. Is it Oller or Oller? I don't like mispronouncing names.
I think it's Oller.
Let's go with Oller. Thank you, Keith, for your support there. That pushed me over the edge. We're going with Adam Oller. I think that's what it is. I think the Rangers, especially on DraftKings, Keith, I'm looking at these prices. Marcus Semien, 4,300. We got it projected, I think, at 3%. I think that's a little low. Corey Seager, Nate Lowe. Like, this team is very cheap. You got Adalis Garcia at 4,200. Nate Lowe's at 3K. Brad Miller's at 2K. And they get – I'm going to take it back to my boy Pepsi 7. Shout out to Pepsi 7. Adam Oller has to be one of the gas cans of the night. If we had an on the bump video today, Adam Oller would have to be in the running for gas can of the night. I don't how many. Hey, listen, let's get some likes. Let's get some likes for the on the bump for Pepsi 7, who's not here today. Let's get these likes up. We're at 26 likes. Let's get to 50 likes quickly for a retrospective on the bump short video that would detail the pitching each day. That's right. My boy Izzy put a 7 in there. 7 goes in the chat for Pepsi 7. And once again, we said we're going to be active. Keith, you're going to hop in this thing. Izzy B24 says the Rangers lineup is disgusting. Izzy, I don't disagree with you. But what I will say as a counter to that is this is daily fantasy sports. And as bad as you think this Texas lineup is, Adam Oller is even worse. 13% K rate, 11.8% walk rate, 6.84 xFIP. Izzy, here's what I'm telling you today. The Rangers could walk into 5 runs because Adam Oller is going to walk at least 4 or 5 guys today. That's probably exaggeration. Let's go with 3. I think 3 is reasonable. He's going to give them opportunities to score runs. I like the Texas Rangers. I think they're going to become popular or will be popular. Keith, I'm going to shut up again and get out of your way. Please give the people this beautiful analysis.
Yeah, it's the matchup. You touched on Oller's numbers there. He doesn't strike anyone out. He walks way too many guys. That xFIP is like, it doesn't say that his ERA is sky high because he's been unlucky. Like an xFIP over 6 is a really bad number. I know that Texas isn't the sexiest offense, but their pricing is very helpful. If you want to get up to Scherzer and Rodon in some of your builds, those prices are extremely helpful. Yeah, I mean, Texas is not a team we generally talk about as being one of the top teams on the night, but they absolutely are today. Another thing is we were talking about Aller's numbers. He pitches in one of the best pitchers parks in baseball. He's going into Texas today, another pitcher's park, but not near as extreme of a pitcher's park as Oakland is. This is a great matchup for Texas. Seager is super talented. Simeon is super talented. Garcia has a ton of power, and everybody else is basically free. So it makes it really easy to stack. We want to spend up for Scherzer and Rodon. I mean, I'm completely with you. Highest team total on the board. Like, the odds makers are telling they're going to score plenty of runs here, and it's because of the matchup.
Yeah, man. Adam Aller. If for nothing else, he's 5,700. I like Texas. And even if you don't want to full stack Texas, I think just being able to pull some pieces together, like, man, you could run 1, 2, 3 on Texas. Simeon, Seager, Nate Lowe, and that might give you a good chunk of the run scored today. Especially, because I think if anybody's going to hit a home run on this team, I didn't mention Adolis Garcia in that 1, 2, 3, but I think it's Seager or Garcia. If I had to pick one of two guys hit a home run, it's not rocket science. You hop into plate IQ. You look at plate IQ, you say, oh, these guys have some of the highest ISOs on the team. Now, full disclosure, Adolis Garcia has a 27.7% K rate, but I think that is a wash considering Aller has a 13.5% K rate. So his K rate should essentially come down tonight, which will what? Increase his chances to get a hit, which should increase his chances to use the power that he has, should increase his chances for a home run. I'm not sure if we're going to get a turd bomb from Adolis Garcia. But Grant, if you happen to be lurking anywhere in the shadows, can we get an Adolis Garcia turd bomb for the people? I definitely think this is a good spot for him. And then once again, in terms of Seager, he's just got the best numbers across the board for this team, period. 199 ISO, 340 over, 15% K rate, 10% walk rate. He's a walk candidate right off the bat. So I really like Corey Seager. And the Corey Seager ownership reflects how good of a spot this is. 20, we've got him at, I think, around 20% on DK. Definitely think this is a good spot for him. And so we should be able to really get some good stuff from the Texas Rangers. Let's go to wait a minute. We've got a question here. We've got a question live as we're going. Texas, don't we think we'll be so on that playing the top 3 will be super pop? Oh, okay, so high on. I got you, Michael. I think that's definitely a scenario that could happen. I am using some of the ownership projections, I think, to our advantage. It looks as if owner sentiment, and so when we talk about ownership, we're talking about sentiment from the player. Who do they feel like is most popular based on, lineup spot, matchup, price, so forth, scarcity at the position, all those things are going to ownership, right? Well, when you look at second base, there's a lot of second basemen. More people, it looks like right now, would like to play Jose Altuve rather than Marcus Semien. So while Texas is going to have some bats that are high on, Corey Seager being the highest, Marcus Semien is projected here around 3%. I like that. That just basically what that tells me is he's not going to have high ownership. It might not be right at 3, might be 4, might be 5, but he's not going to have incredibly high ownership where Corey Seager may be anywhere from 18 to 24. So that type of a range. So I definitely think the top 3 will still be okay. Seager will have ownership. Simeon and Nate Lowe won't have as much ownership unless they pick up serious traction as we get closer to lock. So
I don't know if you saw Simeon's price. Simeon's price on FanDuel. He's going to be mega popular on FanDuel. He is $2,400 on FanDuel.
Yeah, and he has to be. He has to be. Let's see here. Brian C. said Chief had 12 cups of coffee since noon. Dude is rolling. Brian, I actually don't drink coffee, but my drink of choice is lemonade. So that's my drink of choice. Hammer, I actually don't do any types of drugs, so no weed, no cannabis, none of that stuff. I'm just high off life, my man. I try to enjoy life every day. I treat people how I want to be treated, with respect, dignity, honor. and I expect the same. So, and guess what? I enjoy coming on this show, being able to hang out with you guys. So that's why I'm into it, man. Plus, I'm hosting today, so it's just a little bit different flavor than Dean. All right, next offense, and then once we wrap this up, we'll talk about some pitching. We'll get into some shenanigans. We'll talk some props. I haven't even mentioned my props yet. I'm going to get to it, I promise. You mentioned the Dodgers, and I do have let's call it an approach, if you will. Typically, the Dodgers, as popular as we think they're going to be every night, end up not being popular, Keith, because they play at 10 in the 10 o'clock Eastern hour, which would be 7 o'clock, of course, on the West Coast. Today, however, they're playing in the 8 o'clock Eastern hour, a little bit smaller slate. And if you look, they're probably going to get some ownership facing Eric Lauer tonight. You mentioned the Dodgers. Clearly, this is a line that can absolutely score runs. How are you feeling about the Dodgers? Once again, for me, it's the Mets. And then, it's kind of everybody else will pick and pop, pick and choose. You seem to like the Dodgers. Let's talk about the Dodgers.
Yeah, I don't know that I definitely like the Mets better. I definitely like the Rangers better. And that's just because of their pricing. They're a really expensive stack. And when we get over to pitch, on FanDuel, I think you definitely want to pay up for one of the two aces. On DraftKings, there are definitely some ways to get the Dodgers stack in. We're going to talk about some cheap guys with great matchups. You're not going to be on one of them, as you already professed your love for Colorado. But the other guy against Detroit is certainly going to be in play. I want to go
absolutely
underweight on both of those guys. So I don't have enough money to get to the Dodger stack today. When Will Smith was in there and he was a premium catcher, I had a little bit more interest. Love it. Don't mind the matchup against Lauer. I think Lauer's a good pitcher, but he's not a gas can by any means. This is no Adam Oller that we're talking about. He's got some strikeout upside. The Dodgers are not as good against left-handed pitching. Muncy in the lineup. You've got Freeman lefty. That takes away two of their big power bats, or not takes them away, but minimizes them to a degree. Even Betts has had reverse splits throughout his career. So it's the pricing on the Dodgers. I'm struggling to get up to them because I want to go up for pitching as much as I can. We talked about the Rangers pricing. The Mets have a couple value bats. I definitely prefer those two more than the Dodgers. And it's partly the respect that I had for Lauer too. Like Lauer is a good strikeout pitcher.
Okay. Well, let's talk. See, and I love these slates, Keith, where we get to talk a little bit of strategy and we don't have to just, call out names. So let's talk through it, right? Because for me, in terms of, because, there's two sides to DFS. There's the side where it's like, okay, these are good plays. And if we play this group of players or this team or attack this spot, it should have us in an advantageous spot at the end of the night, right? It should, given the scenario, the matchup, everything you see in plate IQ. Like that's one leg of it, right? The other leg is like ownership. Okay, well, it's baseball, and baseball is different than basketball, and it's different than football, it's different than hockey, where just because a guy's 30% owned, I'm probably getting close to where I could fade him, right? Even though it's a great spot, the best hitter in baseball can strike out 4 times tonight, right? So we've got that part of our intel that we've got to utilize, right? And then we've got just skills in general. And you'll hear Cheese talk about this a lot, where a guy maybe got beat up, but he has better skills than say player B. Right? How do you personally, in your approach to DFS, how do you rate each leg of that? And I'm not saying you got to give me like, oh, this is 50%, this is 30, but what's kind of your thought process when you're building lineups? And I'll talk about mine too, but just kind of let's get into the mind of Keith Eister. What are you thinking when you see this slate? You don't really like it. It sucks. The bats are all over the place. It's pitching is straightforward. Where's your brain headed when you're trying to build lineups?
So I think it's you mentioned two very key factors there: the balance between ownership and the skill of the offense or the pitcher that I'm targeting. So we have very specific examples. I think the two pitchers that are grabbing ownership today that are cheap on DraftKings I have no interest in playing because they don't have big strikeout rates. They're not facing, in Montgomery's case, the Rockies don't strike out a ton. And in Kroll's case, yes, the matchup is phenomenal, but this is a guy with like a 16% K rate. Do I really think that Cal Quantrill is going to go out there and put up a score that I absolutely have to have in a tournament? He could because of the matchup, but it's pretty unlikely.
He got 7 strikeouts against Toronto. I'm messing.
I'll take the under on 7 strikeouts today, even against Detroit. But that just so I do look at the talent. The Dodgers are a scary fade, but I'm willing to do it because it doesn't fit the lineup construction that I think is going to win today. I think paying up for the upside at pitching, I can find a fence that can score as many runs as the Dodgers today. I'm having difficulty finding enough pitchers with the strikeout upside that Rodon and Scher have today.
Okay, there you go. And one thing I want to mention just to just kind of, I hate to use the term piggyback, just to hang out on the side that Keith is on. We got to remember too, folks, that in DFS it's slate dependent, right? And each slate has its own puzzle that we're trying to figure out and you're trying to figure out and put together. And so when you look at today's slate, I think it's pitcher driven, which is why I started with hitting. We don't have to sell you on pitching today, right? If you're playing cash games on FanDuel, there's 2 guys. You're playing Scherzer, you're playing Rodon. You decide. It doesn't matter to me. The Braves strike out. Arizona's going to have a tough time with Carlos. I don't care which one you play. I'm not here to twist your arm. Both are going to be fine. When you go to DK, it's the same thing. Which one of these guys do you want to play? Is it Scherzer? Is it Carlos? Or is it both? Because as we've already seen, today you do have the option to play both. Some days we don't have that option, right, Keith? Like some days if you play both pitchers that are at the top of the food chain, you're going to be in serious trouble at the end of the night because you're not going to have enough scoring from the offense to make up for it. Tonight is a night, and look, we're not guaranteeing you that Scherzer and Rodon are going to both score 30. What we're saying is, and I think I can speak for Keith here, is that these 2 pitchers have the highest upside and probably the highest likelihood to get to 30 points tonight compared to the rest of the field. Keith, hopefully I explained. That's how I'm approaching it. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely agree with everything that you said there. The other thing is there isn't one offense. Like if the Dodgers were facing Adam Oller today, this would be a completely different conversation.
Okay.
Because I would be saying the Dodgers are unfadable today. They're facing the worst pitcher on the slate. They're an absolutely elite offense. Let's go. I want to pay up for offense today. That's not how this slate is, in my opinion. I think that the offense is really spread out. So I'll be stacking multiple teams where I'll have a very condensed pitcher pool around the 2 pitchers. I think, like you said, just they're the far most likely. It doesn't mean they are going to be the 2 guys, but they're the far most likely to put up the 2 highest scores today. So I'm going to allocate the majority of my funds to those 2 guys. I'm comfortable with the value bats I'm finding on offense. So that's the way I'm playing the slate.
Absolutely. I get it 100%. I'm with you. We've got another question here coming in hot off the line. And I got to find the question here because I did see it. Let's see. So sorry, folks. There was a question, I think. Oh, I guess it must have moved down. But basically, I can't find the question right now. But they were asking about Reagan from Texas facing Oakland, who, in all honesty, it's about the same scenario as Oakland facing as Ollers facing Texas. What are your thoughts there? I do think there's some intrigue in, let's say, Sean Murphy today, right? And that's what I was saying when I was talking about the slate. And I'm like, well, there's like a bat out of this lineup that I feel really good about, that they should be able to get the job done. When you look at Sean Murphy, 277 ISO, 377 WOBA, 18% K rate, 15% walk rate, absolutely has the best numbers on this team against lefties in general. Definitely expecting him to probably get a hold of Mr. Reagan's. Sean Murphy is also a guy. I mean, you know, you're going to get him at catcher, and he's 4,500 on an overall bad offense. I don't think many people are playing Sean Murphy tonight. He's a great tournament player, in my opinion, at the catcher position. So to answer your question, from my perspective, I don't want to stack Oakland because I think Texas is just a better team overall. Oakland looks dreadful. Just in general, like no power, high K rates all over the place. I don't want to get involved in Oakland. But Keith, how do you feel about Reagan's? I don't think he's going to have some monster game, but I do like Sean Murphy. Please talk to us a little bit about Oakland, about Reagan's, and where we want to go.
So I do like your Sean Murphy call, but I do think that Cole Reagan's is a viable pivot if you're looking for a cheap pitcher today. Oakland has been brutal. Reagan's is a pretty decent prospect. Now he has not shown through his first couple major league starts here, but he had tough matchups. He faced Houston, and I forget who the other one was, but two tough matchups. This was a guy that had a 27% strikeout rate in AAA. He had a 6.7% walk rate in AAA. Those are pretty solid skills for a AAA pitcher.
He sounds like he's pulling up Fangraphs, folks.
You got it. But he's facing one of the worst offenses in baseball. I totally think he's in play. I can't pay up for Scherzer and Rodon every single lineup, or I would have to fade like the Dodgers completely and things like that. And I may end up there, but I'm not going to be 100% Scherzer and Rodon. I also don't love the ownership numbers on Quantrill and Montgomery, like we've talked about. So I need to find a pivot in that cheap range to try to get some of the premium offenses in there. I think Reagan's is the best option. You save a little bit of money going down to him. And even though he hasn't shown strikeout upside in the majors to this point, I think in this matchup, he does have some strikeout upside.
Okay. I totally get that. Totally respect it. Let me say this. I do like Cal Quantrill. And this is the prop side of me coming to fruition. Listen, he's facing Detroit, man. Detroit has been just a bottomless pit of misery, feels like, for the past few seasons. I mean, they've had, and the thing is, Keith, they've had good bats over the course of these terrible seasons overall. Most people, and I'm not going to say most people, a lot of people know this. They used to have Nick Castellanos was a Detroit Tiger. JD Martinez was a Detroit Tiger. Like, they had some guys with Miggy that, and Miggy even 6 years ago could still hit bombs. Like this team, they just can't get right. And I mean, they keep playing young prospects, and I think they're trying to do it the right way. But at some point, don't we feel like the Detroit Tigers are going to have to make a blockbuster deal? I mean, same old Tigers, same old Lions. I mean, felines are just running wild with disease in Detroit. Nobody can win anything. The Tigers and the Lions need to go to the vet and get fixed quickly. All right, I digress. I digress.
They are really bad. I totally understand your point. I don't think Quantrill is very good. But I do have either. You said you were crossing off Detroit. He could be, yes. But I don't think he's going to go up and throw 7, 8, 9 strikeouts. I think Reagan's can match the 6 run strikeouts he's with. I do have a little bit of interest in the cheap bats. Javi Baez has had a really, really tough year, but there's still some power there. I'll play a little bit of Baez just for the leverage against Quantrill. And Kerry Carpenter is a prospect around minimum price that has some big-time power as well. So I don't mind hunting a cheap home run there. I agree. Detroit is terrible. But a couple of one-offs, I'm definitely not stacking them. But I don't think Quantrill's a great pitcher either. So I'll take a couple of shots.
Listen, Brian C., Detroit Lions going to have a hard time again this year if head coach Dan Campbell can't stop biting players' kneecaps. My God, how bad this? Oh God, Coach Campbell.
That was an all-time quote for sure.
Man, this is rough. T from LOC. Chief is not having it today. Couldn't imagine being Detroit fan in any sport. Like, man, Detroit's got it so rough right now. But it's so true, though, right? I mean, there's just an omen over Detroit sports. Some team has got to dig this sports city out of the hole. I don't know if it's going to be the Pistons with Cade.
The Pistons are making some moves. That's what I was going to say.
I don't.
They're not going to be good this year, but they're acquiring some young talent there.
But so you heard it from Keith, folks. This is every barbershop in America. They're getting some young talent in a couple of years. They're going to be good. Maybe we'll see. We shall see. All right. So Keith, we covered, I think, a great deal of the hitting. Are there any other nuggets that you possibly want to throw in there? I will say this: sneakily, I like a few Boston Red Sox bats, but it's not like they're like a primary team for me. But sneakily, and the only reason why I say that is I think Contreras, while he does have good stuff, he's young. I think they'll run up the pitch count on him enough to see the bullpen in the 4th or 5th inning. Like that's more my reasoning with Boston. Like, of course, you can hit a home run off of him anytime. Tommy Pham could get on base. Xander, Verdugo. He's more of a singles and doubles guy. Like I think they have enough. Eric Hosmer's a professional non-strikeout artist that will have ground ball outs and hit the occasional single, double, or home run. Right? I think they've got enough to give Contreras trouble. And if they can get him out of there early, get him in a jam, they may be able to score a few runs with a couple swings of the bat. And so let me say this too. When I'm thinking about teams that don't strike out but also don't have a lot of power, what I'm thinking about is teams that should, air quotes here, should be able to string together runs. So while they may not be hitting home runs, if they're hitting singles and doubles and a guy's stealing, a guy's getting a third, they hit a sacrifice fly, and another guy hits a double. Like, they're scoring enough to where if they get the lineup to turn, that one extra time, that could be that one extra time that you get the home run. You get a double, a base clearing double. And so while none of them may have hit a home run, but one guy, they've all scored 14 to 18 points, as an example, because they keep getting on base, they keep scoring. So just wanted to put that out there. Keith, I think we're good. I did talk about the Rockies. I like them a lot against Montgomery. I've already explained that. Love the Mets. That's my top team. Keith also really likes Houston, right, against Kopech, who outside of that last start really has struggled. And Keith, I'm going to stop there. I thought we were about to pull ourselves out of the offensive side, but let's talk about Houston. You did mention that a great deal, just talking about them against Kopech. Let's strengthen our Houston case, and then we'll move on to some questions, talk some pitching, so forth and so on.
Yeah, it's just Kopech struggles this year. He's got a walk rate over 10%. I believe he's like 11.5. And just this is a really talented offense. Alvarez is one of the best hitters in baseball. I love Kyle Tucker today, 4,500 on DraftKings. That's too cheap for the hitter that Tucker is. Altuve at a very weak second position. Bregman has shown some signs of life here with a couple of homers in his recent games. I like this addition of Mancini to this offense. I think it's a super talented offense. It's one of the reasons that I'm not going to play Scherzer and Rodon in every single lineup, because Houston is a premium offense that I want to pay for today. Kopech doesn't scare me. I think it was simply a product of facing Detroit in his last start. I think he comes back down to what he has been most of the season, and that's a pitcher with a K rate in the low 20s. Houston is a team that doesn't strike out at all. And his walk rate is sky high as well. So there should be plenty of traffic on the bases. You got great power bats like Alvarez, Tucker, Bregman. And there's even some cheap pieces that you can punt with. Like if you want to play McCormick down at the bottom of the lineup, I'm fine with that. Love the mid-range prices on Trent Mancini. So they grade out among the best teams on the slate for me. Another team that we didn't talk about much that I do want to touch on real quick is Cleveland. Everybody knows to play J-Ram. He's gonna be popular, but I don't think the Cleveland stack overall is popular. You've got guys like Steven Kwan, lefty, Ahmed Rosario. Nobody really likes to play him at that price. Andres Jimenez's price is way up there. It's not an easy team to stack. It's uncomfortable if you're building this lineup to click these guys at these prices. But the collective group overall against a really bad pitcher like Norris, I think has a bunch of upside today. I love that Oscar Gonzalez is hitting in the 4-hole. A nice value bet that helps make this thing work. You the upside of J-Ram in there. I think the middle infielders, Rosario and Jimenez, both help fill out positions. So when I'm looking at stacks, I'm also looking at position eligibility, and Cleveland being heavy on the infield. Like, we can always find outfield plays, right? So having some bats in the infield makes that Cleveland stack attractive to me. Like, Rosario and Jimenez are probably a little bit overpriced if you just look at them in a vacuum. But this matchup against Norris and the positions that they fill is what puts them in play for me. So I do like Cleveland a good amount too.
All right. I do like Cleveland. Cleveland is a team that I typically will play because, I mean, look, man, and I've been saying this all season. Steven Kwan's not going to hit a bunch of home runs. But what he is going to do is get on base multiple times. Right? Every game, you can pretty much count on a single, a double, a walk, 2 walks, a stolen base. Like, you can count on Steven Kwan to not put up a donut every night. You think I'm lying to you? Just pull up the game log. He's probably got, in terms of not putting up donuts, I would go out and venture to say, Keith, that he's probably 85% or above, like, fantasy points every night. Like, seriously. So probably even more than J-Ram, because J-Ram's going to put up a few more duds than he will, because he's trying to work and get on base. He's not hunting for power. He just wants to set the table and come on home, which is why I will say this. If you're on the books right now, Steven Kwan runs for a half run, go ahead and take that right now. If he gets on base, most likely he's coming home in one of these at-bats. So that's a sneaky one that I kind of just get on every night. And if you play it, most likely he's coming home at some point. Like Steven Kwan runs, especially against Daniel Norris here. Norris lefty. I don't care. All right, Keith, I think we've wrapped up the bats. I'm not going position by position today, per se. If you will, Keith, let's just drum up, let's say 4 or 5 of our favorite bats. We're going to talk some pitching. We're going to talk about why our approach is the way it is. We're going to field questions. We're going to continue to have fun. And by then, the Crunch Time crew is going to be entering the building. Keith, let's give it for 4 or 5 bats. Let's analyze it, and then let's keep this train moving.
All right, so give me Corey Seager. Absolutely love him today with the matchup against Aller. We talked about how terrible Aller has been. You can add Simeon on Fanduel. He is just mispriced. 2,400 for a guy off on the team with the highest total of the night. Simeon is just, I don't care what his ownership is going to be. He's too cheap. Jose Ramirez, just talked about him. Absolutely love this matchup against Daniel Norris. Guy that doesn't strike out, going to put the ball in play, tons of power and speed as well. Gives you a bunch of upside. Daniel Vogelbach is one of my favorite
I like that.
Plays as well. We talked about Odorizzi not striking out lefties hardly at all. Vogelbach's biggest issue is his strikeouts. He's going to hit the ball in the air multiple times today. Give me Daniel Vogelbach for a home run. And then Oscar Gonzalez is one of my favorite values in that Cleveland stack as well. Really like his price tag. Grab the 4-hole today for Cleveland.
Woo! Keith, bringing the heat today. Love it, Keith. I'm going to start in Colorado. This is a guy I mentioned earlier, kind of at the top of the show as we were looking at the numbers. Give me CJ Cron today. Really, really expensive today at first base at 5,300. But this guy, if he doesn't strike out, should be able to take Jordan Montgomery deep today. I like Steven Cron at 5,300. He's a favorite. He's definitely a favorite bat of mine. I'm actually going to go over to the Rangers. I'm going to go Nate Lowe at 3K. You mentioned Corey Seager. I'm going Nate Lowe at 3K. What he may be lacking in power, he's going to make up for in the strikeout department. When you look at Nate Lowe, you look at the strikeout numbers, he's at 24%. But this guy's at 13.5. this is one of the lower strikeouts outside of Semien and Seager. I think he's going to have an opportunity to drive in runs. That's the other thing here, Keith. When you have Seager and Semien ahead of you, he's in a 3-hole today against Adam Oller. I think he's got opportunity to drive in runs. He's 3K on DK, right? So it doesn't get, in my opinion, much better than that. Also, I'm going to head back up, talk about another team. We're going back to the Mets. Look, Jake Odorizzi is going to struggle. Give me Francisco Lindor today. On FanDuel, you can play both Lindor and Seager. I don't think you're going to see that a lot. I don't think you'll see a whole lot of Lindor at short, Seager at utility, or Seager at short, Lindor at utility. I think that's an option that you can explore today. Really like him. You mentioned Vogelbach. Also, I still like Pete Alonso. I'm giving you 2 bets. I'm still going to give you my other 3. Really like Pete Alonso here. I know Odorizzi. He's just got fly ball hard tendencies. Pete Alonso in Atlanta should be able to send this ball out of Truist Park. So really like Alonso here. Like him a lot. I mentioned this. I'm going to Boston. Give me Rafael Devers. I know I'm giving you expensive bets. I promise I've got another cheap one. But I love Devers here against Contreras. I think this is a spot where he can get loose. Yes, he's in Pittsburgh. I don't care. He's got so much power, man. 302 ISO here. 15.2% K rate, 410 WOBA. I think he's got a shot to do some damage here. He's going to see fastball 55% of the time here. And so I think Devers, I think he's got a real shot sending one out. I did mention Lowe on the cheap end. Another guy that I want to mention on the cheap end, or let's say cheap enough. Let's go with cheap enough. You talked about Houston, right? Look over this Houston lineup. Why in the world, hear me out here, why in the world is Kyle Tucker 4,500? I think Kyle Tucker's a touch too cheap today. I think he should have been more around 48. I like Kyle Tucker. Lefty, righty. Kopech should have some issues today. Really like him. And last but not least, listen, anytime I get Zach Davies on the mound, I like to attack Zach Davies. And when you look at San Francisco, the whole team is cheap. There isn't anybody that you can't afford. We talked about it. What is Zach Davies going to be throwing? He's going to be mostly throwing sinkers. Who hits sinkers well in this team? There's a host of guys. But Brandon Crawford, folks, at shortstop, 80% contact rate, 46% hard hit rate, 245 ISO. Brandon Crawford is a favorite target for me for the San Francisco Giants. I think he's got in a good spot here. Even if he doesn't hit a home run, I definitely think that he can poke some balls around the field, drive some guys home. Like him a lot. Bonus, here's our bonus. I'm going to give you my personal home run call of the day. Let's see where we are on the likes here. Let's see because we want these likes. All right. Look, I'm going to give you an easy one. Let's get to 75 likes. I'll give my home run call. We're at 66. I'm giving you a cheapie today. We get to 100 likes. Keith will give out his home run call. Get us to 75 likes, folks, with the quickness. Home run call is coming. We get to 100 likes. Keith will give out his home run call. And this is the sneaky home run call. I've already gave out one. I told you that I like Pete Alonso to get a hold of one. I've already talked about this guy. Let's see if we 85. We're at 87, Keith. I love it. Thanks for participating. Here we go. Secret home run call tonight. Talked about this guy at catch. Give me at 4,500. I think he sends one out of the park tonight. Get him in your lineups. Keith, we're at 93. We're about to push 100, my man. We're 7 away. Guess what? Our illustrious producer, Steve, we want to pump this thing up. Let's get the likes. Let's get it pumped up, folks. Get us to 100. Keith gives out his personal home run call. And we're going to talk pitching. Keith, we haven't made it yet. Let me turn this off. I don't want to pass 5 seconds. And we have copyright infringement issues. We're at 9,600. Derek said all he heard was 4,500. Sorry about that. It's Sean Murphy at catcher. Please forgive me, everybody. Sean Murphy at catcher. This is why you love the chat, right? They're going to let you know the facts, let you know what's going on. Sean Murphy at catcher. Keith, we're at 102. What is your home run call, sir?
Well, I gave out the Vogelbach one already. That's my absolute favorite. I'm looking for value here, so I'm gonna try to nail. Gonna try to nail a cheap home run today, so I can pay up for some pitching. Gonna go a little bit of leverage on this one too. Give me Kerry Carpenter for the Detroit Tigers.
Ooh,
taking Quantrill.
Listen, he's digging in the bag, people. He's pulling out a Detroit Tiger for a home run call. Keith is pulling lint out of everybody's pockets today. Keith, let's talk about pitching. We've talked about the bats. We've talked about the stacks. It's time for pitching, folks. Where are we at in terms of pitching? Once again, for cash, I don't think we have to overthink. You play Scherzer. You play Rodon. Call it a day. On Fanduel, you pick one. I don't care. Play one. Call it a day. Keith, pitching. Let's get it, my brother.
Yeah, it's very clear who the top two are on the day. It's Scherzer and Rodon, both over 30% strikeout rates. Both guys go super deep into games. If you're asking me to pick one, it's a very tough decision today. Rodon has the easier matchup against Arizona, I would say, but they don't strike out a ton. Scherzer has a much more volatile matchup against Atlanta, but they have been one of the top strikeout teams in baseball this season. So for tournaments, I don't necessarily care about how risky a certain guy is. For tournaments, I'm going upside of Scherzer if I had to pick one. But like I said, I think they're both great today. It's extremely close. I just like the strikeout upside for Scherzer against Atlanta. Rate above 24% on the season. They have been getting a little bit better with that recently. But Scherzer still offers massive strikeout upside in any given matchup. So give me Scherzer 1A, Rodon 1B without a doubt. Very clear top two today. If you're looking to save some money, and like I said, on FanDuel, I would be getting up to one of those two as much as I could today. On DraftKings, I'm trying to go double barrel studs as much as I can today. I think they clearly have the upside over the rest of the field. One other expensive name I'll throw out there is Framber Valdez. He has been just incredible this season. He has I think it's 17 or 18 quality starts in a row. Just he keeps the ball on the ground. He doesn't give up home runs. I don't love the strikeout upside for him today against a White Sox team, but I think that he's probably going to go out there and give you 6 or 7 innings, and he's probably not going to give up more than 3 runs. If for some reason Scherzer and Rodon don't hit that ceiling game, I think Valdez is a guy that could match with longevity in this start. If you get the 7 innings and the 5 or 6 Ks from him, and you only get 6 or 7 Ks from the 2 studs, I think this can hang with that. Going down for some value, we've talked about Cal Quantrill throughout the show. This matchup against Detroit, absolutely as good as it gets in all of baseball. Detroit has been the worst offense. They strike out plenty. There is no power threats. Despite the Kerry Carpenter home run call, there's not much power in this lineup. He gets around Baez, Carpenter, Riley Green maybe. There's no threat on this Detroit side. So I get why Quantrill is grabbing ownership. If for some reason you cannot afford Rodon or Scherzer in your cash games, I think Quantrill is a fine consolation prize. I think he's very safe. But it's the strikeout upside for me. The 16% strikeout rate is not what I'm looking for in tournaments. And Detroit is a high strikeout team, but they're not an elite, they're not in the top 5. I think they're 6th or 7th in strikeout rate this season. They strike out plenty, but I just don't think that Quantrill gets in range of the strikeouts I'm looking for today. Jordan Montgomery is another guy who has a great projection today. Another guy that I just don't love the ownership number on. Colorado has been much better against lefties. They don't strike out a ton either. Montgomery has flash strikeouts upside at times, but another guy that has a strikeout rate below 20%. Not a tournament pitcher for me. I would much rather take on more risk with other guys. I think those are very clearly the 4 highest owned pitchers of the day. I'm looking to pay up for Rodon and Scherzer as much as I can. I'll be underweight on Quantrill and Montgomery. When I'm trying to go off the board, we talked about him a little bit already, but Cole Reagans is in play for me. He's a good prospect. Texas's top pitching prospect. Had some strikeout upside in the minors. A couple of really difficult matchups to open his career here in the majors. But this is not a difficult matchup here today. He gets Oakland. If Detroit is the worst offense, Oakland is the second worst offense. So love this matchup over Egan's. Oakland doesn't walk either, which is another positive for a young pitcher. You don't need him to do much, I don't think, to outscore Montgomery and Quantrill. I'm banking on one of them just not having that 8-9 strikeout game. As long as they're in the 7K range, I totally think Cole Reagan's going to hang with them today.
Look, Keith, summing up pitching, putting a pin in the pitching. I will say this: I probably like Quantrill a little bit more than Keith today, but that's just because I just don't trust Detroit. But I clearly don't like him better than Rodon or Scherzer. You talked about it. Rodon probably the easier matchup in terms of guys that he's got some guys that are going to K. Like, Luplow's at 28%, Varsho 28%, Hummel 25%, Rojas 26%. Like, he's got enough in there to get it done. Atlanta against righties this season, though, man, it's been one of those weird things all year where team can score runs, but they're going to strike out a ton. It reminds me of when the White Sox were good last year and they could strike out a ton, but they were going to score a bunch of runs and they were going to still win games. And that's kind of how I feel about Atlanta this season. So I think if I'm going to go by which team is less scary, it's definitely Arizona. Both of these guys' K numbers are about the same. I think Scherzer's at 31, and I think Rodon is around 31, 32 in his own right. Atlanta has more guys above 20% overall. So if you think, if Scherzer can pitch around the power, like, the strikeouts will be there. And that's so I think on DK, Scherzer, we got him at 50% roughly. We've got Rodon at 53. They're pretty even. I think if you're on DK, you're playing cash games, you play them both. That's what I think you do in cash. I think you just play them. There's enough cheap bats out here from teams that don't seem good on paper but are facing really bad pitching that you get them in there. On FanDuel, I think if I had to pick one, I think they're even. I think you flip a coin, you put one in, both are going to be fine, and you start building lineups. That's my approach. On DK in tournaments, I don't think you build any lineups without one or the other in any lineup. So I think if you're in lineup HQ, you make a rule where you say, hey, you put these two in a group, and one of them needs to be at pitcher at all times. Either one, doesn't matter to me, but one of them needs to be in there. And then if you want to mix and match some guys like Quantrill or, Rich Hill against Pittsburgh, if you want to do something like that. I hadn't talked about Rich Hill. I don't like him. I think I just play him in the prop game, but hey, maybe he turns back the clock. Zach Greinke's been doing it for the past 3 starts. Just keeps turning back the clock, striking guys out. I don't think Rich Hill's today, but either way, I think that's how you get it done. But don't build any lineups, any lineups at all without Scherzer on mix and match from there. All right, folks, let's have some fun. Naked HD. Listen, if you're still listening, still watching, you are on the clock, sir. And I'm trying to go back to this. Let's see here. God, I hate when this thing scrolls. I need this thing on slow scroll so I can find the questions. But Naked HD said if we got to a certain amount of likes, he would post, ladies and gentlemen, his favorite bidet model. Naked HD, if we get there, I think it was 150 likes. Come on, folks, give it up for Naked HD. If we get to 150 likes, he's going to post his favorite bidet model. You've got the home run call from me. You've got the home run call from Keith. We want the bidet model, folks. Please give it up Let's get to 50 for our good friend, all the way, Hesco Heights own, Naked HD. We're at 115. We need 35 more likes. We want this bidet model to circulate the RG chambers. Let's get it, folks. Get us our bidet. We're at 118. We're counting down now. We're at 119. We're almost there. We need 31 more. Naked HD is 30. We're at 120. It's going to provide us with our bidet model for the people. Here we go. We're at 123. If you have any questions, okay, we got one. Could you guys give a top, mid, and cheap outfielder that you like today? Brett, I like that. That's a great one. Keith, you have, and I tell you what, Keith, if you handle DK, I'll handle Fanduel. Is that fair? A top,
yep, sounds good.
A mid, and a low. You take DK, take it away, Keith.
All right. Kyle Tucker is the mid tier. We've both talked about him. Just that $4,500 price tag is too cheap. He should be closer to $5K. My favorite cheap outfielder. So I do like Kerry Carpenter. I do like Lars Nootbaar as well. Herman Marquez has been struggling against just all season long. Nootbaar has been hitting well for this St. Louis team. He grabbed the leadoff spot today. Probably a little bit of ownership, but I do really like him. And Alex Verdugo would be another guy cheap for Boston at 2,900 hitting in the 4-hole. I think there are several cheap options today, which is why I'm trying to pay up for my pitching as much as I can.
All right. Hey, folks, I'm disappointed. We picked up some steam. We're at 130. We got 288 watching. We want the bidet of the day. We want it. The next time I'm hosting, this may become a thing. The bidet of the day. And that's going to be the pitcher that's going to be spraying the most strikeouts. You get it? He's going to be striking guys out. The bidet of the bidet of the K. The bidet of the K. We're at 135. All right, good. We're getting close here. We're getting close to our bidet, the perfect bidet for your home, for your family and friends. All right, upper tier, lower tier, mid tier. If I'm going at the top, I think in terms of outfield, I'm going to stick with the Mets. I guess Starling Marte isn't really expensive, but he's $3,500 on FanDuel. I'm going to stay there. I like Marte. I'm going to stick with him. If we're going to go into, let's call it, the mid tier, if you will. And once again, I understand that Marte isn't incredibly expensive, but if we're going mid tier, I think I'm going to go with Ahmed Rosario at 3,100 or Stephen Kwan at 3K. I like both of those guys a ton. And then if we're going on the low tier outfield, give me Connor Joe leading off 2,300. I already talked about the Rockies, like them a lot. 2,300 today against Jordan Montgomery. That's a good spot for me. We're at 138. We need 12 more likes. And Naked HD is going to talk to us about his bidet of choice. Via typing, of course. We won't have him live on the show. I wish we could actually pull him in live so you can have some audio so you can actually talk to us about this. Perhaps we come up with that the next time. 139 and counting. Getting very close here. 139 and counting. Any more questions? Okay, well, Matt Hakeem said third base is weirdly bad tonight. And Mr. Hakeem, I don't disagree with you overall, but I do think it's very top heavy. So you got, and I'm on DK now, Keith, but we've got Ramirez, we've got Devers, who are two really good plays. You've got Arenado, who's, in my opinion, just okay. Then you've got Riley, and I know we got Josh Rojas. Come on, we're not playing Josh Rojas at 5,200 against Carlos Rodon. You've got Riley at 5,100. Remember, Riley's absolutely a home run candidate, but we're having to go against Scherzer here, so it's a much tougher spot for him. You've got Bregman against Kopech, who I'm sure Keith really likes. You've got Muncy. You've got Donald Huber. I think it's bad. I think it's top heavy. let's go with top heavy. Believe it or not, Wilmer Flores has good numbers and should be able to hit pretty well against Davies tonight. But that's neither here nor there. Keith, how do you feel? Once again, I don't think bad. I think top heavy. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a position you're either paying up for all the way to the top or you're completely punting it. I absolutely love the ceiling of those three guys you mentioned there, Devers, Ramirez, and Bregman. Absolutely great options at third. And then there are two phenomenal punts that I like here. Brett Beatty for the Mets. We love the Mets today. This is a real prospect. He's their second overall prospect, I believe, behind Francisco Alvarez. But Beatty he's a really good bat. He's a bat first guy, a great hitter, major league debut. Love him against Odorizzi. And Josh Smith. We love the Rangers today. A little bit of speed from Josh Smith there. I don't mind him as a punt either, but I absolutely love the ceiling there. If you're not playing one of the top end guys, I think you can punt it.
Yeah, listen, love that. Keith has talked about it. Mr. Richard, we're going to pull in your quote, sir. Mr. Richard, I think he's got the winner, Keith. He says, how about the K of the bidet? I like it. And then Brian C. comes down. And see, that's why I love the chat, man. These guys are so clever. Brian C. says, this gives spray charts a whole different meaning. Yes! Yes! I love this. The K of the bidet, the spray chart of your choice. I like this. This is being adopted. From here on out, when Chief is on, we're going to get the K of the bidet. Naked HD, I hope you're on there. Brian, I hope you're on there. Very clever, folks. I really like that. Jonathan Shackelford, this is for you, Keith. Who is the best overall play tonight that is not a pitcher?
So top hitter of the day. Let's see here. It's going to be Corey
Seager. 5 more likes before the Crunch Time crew comes in. Come on, folks. We need Naked HD to put us on this bidet. Go right ahead, Keith. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Corey Seager for me. Just love this matchup against Aller. Super talented hitter. Near the top of the order. Love Corey Seager. Yeah,
I think, for me, I talked about it. It's CJ Cron. I know he looks like a phenomenal play against Montgomery to me. I'm rolling with Cron. Absolutely Alonso as well. The Mets are the top stack of the day. And I guess I'll recap that. For me, and I think for Keith as well, Mets, top of the food chain in terms of stacks today. Absolute top. And then, like I said, my favorite hitter of the day, CJ Cron. Your favorite hitter of the day is Corey Seager. Did we get that right, Keith?
You nailed it.
Okay. Keith and Chief, no mention of Miller for 2,000 point on Fanduel. I think I did mention Miller. I'm pretty sure I mentioned Brad Miller when I was talking about the Rangers overall. Pretty sure, but yeah, obviously Brad Miller's in play. I don't hate that at all, especially
he might be talking also about Owen Miller, who I absolutely loved in the Cleveland stack. Second base eligibility for him is huge. So I really like Owen Miller too. I don't know which one he was talking about, but we didn't mention him specifically, but he is absolutely part of my Cleveland stacks.
Okay. Yep. Got it. Jeremy F. Chief, can you take a GPP dart throw on with this AAA Yankee squad today? I'm really not interested in Kluber. I know we're thinking it's AAA. Aaron Judge is still in this lineup. Anthony Rizzo is still in this lineup. Josh Donaldson is still in this lineup. Gleyber Torres is still in this lineup. And look.
Those don't sound like AAA names to me.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa can hit. I'm not saying he's going to be smacking home runs all over the place, but you can get a lot worse than Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in your 9-hole. I understand that they might not carry the same name value when they have Stanton there and Carpenter there, but this team can still hit. I'm not playing Corey Kluber today. I am not playing Corey Kluber. Folks, I'm showing 148 likes. Please, on behalf of myself, Keith, the rest of the chat, let's honor our fellow RotoGrinders member. We're giving him his opportunity, giving him his space to hand us. Oh, and now we're down to 147. My People don't want the bidet. Oh, 149. I'm showing 147. Perhaps I'm wrong. Where we at? Did we make it? I hope it. 151. Naked HD, the floor is yours. Please, sir, hand us the model number of the bidet of choice. Please. We have made it. We need it. Let's go. We're waiting on you. And now it's this awkward silence. Really.
So this is a callback to Kirkwood yesterday, right?
Alpha JX. My goodness, it's the Alpha JX, folks. That sounds like a superhero, if you will. Alpha JX. I like that. So Alpha JX is your bidet. and Showboat King says, please spray us. Ladies and gentlemen, next time I'm on, we're going to have the K of the bidet. I don't think the Crunch Time crew has hopped in just yet, Steve. So we're going to be rolling. Oh, my boy Kyler. Listen, in fact, folks, let's go and give Kyler his shout out because he's in hanging out today. Kyler's been in the prop shop for pretty much since we opened. And so I really appreciate him being there. Started out, man, the guy is crushing Counter-Strike Global Offensive, better known as CSGO. If you want to make a few dollars, come in, hang out. He's been crushing on all prop sites. In fact, I did not talk about props too much tonight, but I will say this. In terms of props, one of my favorite plays on the slate, I'm taking Jake Odorizzi under fantasy points at 21.5. It's very low. I don't care. Our projections have him at 22. Here's the reason why, Keith. Number one, I'm expecting him to give up at least 4 runs. So he's not going to get the quality start. I don't think he makes it through 5 innings. I also don't think he gets enough strikeouts, right? So if that's the case, if I'm not expecting him to get the strikeouts, I'm not expecting him to make it enough innings. What if he went 5 innings, 3 strikeouts, he's at 24 fantasy points, right? I'm expecting him to give up runs. Runs are minus. I'm not expecting the Braves to win this game. He's not going to be in line for the win. At 21.5, Jake Odorizzi under 21.5 fantasy points. One of my favorite props of the night on Prize Picks. We got the lights. If you're into bidets, go out. Get the Alpha JX. We're not advertising. This is just a recommendation from our good friend, Naked HD. Keith, do you have a favorite prop call of the night? I know you've been hanging out on SAO. Anything you want to share with the people?
So we did not discuss this pre-show, but my absolute favorite prop of the day was Jake Odorizzi under 4.5 strikeouts. So we are completely aligned on that. No.
We did not talk about it. Go ahead right now, folks. Start hammering on. Trust me on this. If I'm on it, Keith is on it. I'm feeling good about this prop coming through for us. So I like that a lot. This is amazing. So, yeah, James says his friend is trying to join the prop shop, but it's not showing up for him. He made an RG account too. No problem, James. And I think that's J-Ro, if I'm not mistaken. J-Ro's also been hanging out in the prop shop. J-Ro, if you can, get him to email support at RotoGrinders.com, I think. Email support. Let support know that he's having trouble getting in. They will gladly help him out. And let's get him in the prop shop and let's help the people make some money. Steve, where's the Crunch Time crew? Are they showing up today for work? Okay, looks like they're being added right now. Carty, Cards, and the illustrious weatherman himself is in the building. Washington's playing tonight. Looks like there's no rain. I don't think we've had a bad cancellation with them all year. Roth, I'm getting out of your way. Please, sir, take it away.
Thank you, Chief. And Ice, good to see you both as always. Appreciate you guys being on the show. Welcome to it. It's time, I believe, for Crunch Time. FanDuel sponsored Crunch Time, I should add. If you guys aren't getting in the FanDuel single entry series, what are you doing with your life? You should. $50K and bonus cash up for grabs. Top finisher each series gets an all expenses paid trip to the single entry series championship in Chicago on September 9th. Shot at the $10,000 grand prize. Andy Means said, if you win, he will personally take you out buy you beer, and get you the best deep dish pizza in Chicago. I made that up, but I'm going to say it enough until it becomes true. So make sure you're getting those entries and make sure you're maxing that out. We've got two of the sharpest minds in the biz. One, it is Mr. DerekCarty. He is the president of the Bat and the BatX Enterprises. What's happening, Carty?
Going up. President.
You're doing all
right. I like it.
Yeah. How you feeling, man?
Feeling pretty good. Charlie Morton had a big game last night. Not a lot of people were on him, so that was nice.
You called that, and I was randomly looking through Twitter, and I just saw someone tweet like Charlie Morton with a monster game, and I was like, DerekCarty with a monster show. So good work on that one. How do you feel something similar tonight?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a couple guys that are going to be under-owned tonight. It's a similar-ish pitching slate in the sense that we have kind of like a couple like high-end guys that everyone's going to love, but there's a good amount of depth behind them, and some of these guys are definitely going to get overlooked. So, I kind of like it.
Okay. By the way, the YouTube chat just going off. It's just a bunch of people saying Carty's the man, and Carty made me a bunch of money, or I didn't listen to Carty, and I should have, and I should have played Morton. So yeah, good stuff with that. But look, we're not the type to just rest on our laurels and say, look what we did yesterday. We're going to bring you the goods today as well. And helping to do that is the one and only STL Cards in the house. Cards, how you feeling?
Yeah, I was feeling a little left out there for a minute. I liked Morton too.
You did.
I get an assist. I liked him too. But Carty was the driver of the bus. So, the bus driver gets the credit. That's fine. But I like tonight's slate a little better than I liked last night. So a little more chipper tonight. We'll see if it becomes true at the end of the night when it's all said and done.
Okay. Well, I hate tonight's slate, and I hate it for one very specific reason. I'll start by saying that Chief really scared me a second ago. He was like, we got Washington playing tonight, and there's no concerns. And that scared me because I know it's storming in Washington right now.
I don't really know what he was getting at there because they aren't playing tonight.
Right. That scared me because there's like severe storms in DC tonight. But their game is already cleared out. They're fine. We don't have to worry about them. What we do have to worry about are a chance for a delay in a handful of games. Pittsburgh and New York both have what I would call a lower chance for a delay. And then there's Atlanta, and there's a good who the hell? What is Scherzer?
Yeah,
going in Atlanta, and it's not the kind of situation where I can look at radar and say, okay, here's where the rain is, here's the timing. This is purely just it's dry now, and forecast models pop up a few storms over Atlanta, and
that's like Atlanta every game, though, isn't it? Basically,
yes, it is. No, you're not wrong. It is Atlanta just about every game. So I can't tell you if there's going to be a delay or not. All I can tell you is that there's certainly a chance for a delay. And so that makes Scherzer not a safe play. And I wish, I wish the storms had already popped so I could point at them, but I can't.
Scherzer's mostly a GPP play. I'll say that. Okay. So I'm not even that concerned about that.
I guess in my mind, I'm still thinking the Scherzer of old. Or like, he was the dude, but I guess maybe he's not quite.
I mean, he's still great, but the matchup is not awesome. And we have Carlos Rodon on the slate, who's just straight up better. So
okay, where's Rodon?
He's in San Francisco, which is like the only game today that isn't like 75 degrees.
Love it.
Yeah,
love it. Okay, so, that's excellent.
Yeah, so he's in a great park. He's got easily the best pitching weather, and he's really, really good. So I think Rodon is. I think Rodon's clearly the best pitcher on the slate, and he's against Arizona too. So it's not close. Rodon is way better than Scherzer.
Great. That makes me feel a lot better. I thought I was going to hate this slate, but now I feel better about it. Still, if you want to play Scherzer in a GPP and hope that, forecast models are wrong with pop-ups, and forecast models are wrong with pop-ups all the time, trying to pinpoint them, it just doesn't really work that way.
So let me chime in on this because we are Carty and I are a little bit different with how to handle these pitchers tonight. And I do agree, Rodon is probably the play, especially now with the weather. I mean, he's the guy in cash on FanDuel. He's $800 cheaper than Scherzer. You don't need to mess around with it. But this is going to be one of those times where I'm going to look at Scherzer and say he tends to get up for big games when he needs to. And you look at the tough opponents that Scherzer has faced over the last couple of months. His last start was against Philly, 1 run in 7 innings. Previous start was against Atlanta, who he faces tonight. 7 innings, no runs, 11 strikeouts. He pitched against Atlanta last month as well. 7 innings, 1 run, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts. He's pitched against the Braves twice this year. He has 20 Ks and no walks. And I mean, he still pretty much is the old Scherzer. Like, he's still a guy with a sub-2 ERA.
Yeah, he's still a top 5 pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
At least.
So
he's elite.
The paper matchup is going to say you play Rodon against Arizona. You don't play Scherzer against Atlanta. But Scherzer's a weird guy that, a few weeks ago he pitched against the Yankees, pitched 7 shutout innings in that game. So sometimes the mental preparedness for Scherzer, he has better games against Atlanta and the Yankees than he does against the Cubs or Washington. It's weird. And some of that is, Carty will tell you that most of that is sample size noise, and I get it. But in tournaments, if everyone's going to come off of him because of the weather and he's more expensive than Rodon, and it just doesn't make sense to take the risk. I mean, if you get lucky with the weather there, it's not like Scherzer can't bring, no-hit stuff to the table. So maybe a little bit more volatility with him, but I do like him if the weather holds off. So the forecast is a little bit of a bummer, though if the game ends up working out and he gets even lower ownership, then maybe that's for the better in GPPs.
I mean, is the weather really going to have that much impact? Like Roth, for everything we've talked about it, Roth has it as yellow, which basically means it's good. So is anyone
when you say that? I hate when you say that so much. There's literally nothing pisses me off more than that. But no, I don't think people are going to come off of him because of it, really. Just because usually people only make a move if a delay happens or I'm screaming, this is definitely going to happen. Even then, I don't think people.
I don't think you ever scream. This is definitely going to happen.
I do. I do. I'm fine rolling it in a GPP cards. Like, I don't think it's a crazy play. I think that's fine. So that's where I'm at. Let's talk about some of the other pitchers, guys. And Carty, you can kind of lead us off with what your game plan is.
Yeah, so Rodon's tier 1, Max is tier 2, and then there's a drop off to the rest of the guys. Rodon, you're playing as your SP1 in cash on both sites. I guess you can play Scherzer with him in cash if you want on DraftKings, but he's expensive. We have a lot of really good value pitchers on this slate where I don't think you have to go double aces. We have Cal Quantrill for 7K against the Detroit Tigers, who are just terrible, who are super strikeout heavy. I don't like Quantrill as a pitcher, but the matchup's great. The price is great. He projects as the next best pitcher on the site or on the slate. And so I think Quantrill is very much in play for cash games, for GPPs. I think he's fantastic. And then we have probably like 2 or 3 other cheap, really good value pitchers on this slate that you can think about playing also. We have Jordan Montgomery against Colorado outside of Coors for 6.9K. We have Domingo Germán for 6.5K against Tampa Bay. Germán Marquez, I think, is really interesting in tournaments. Probably not so much for cash, but he's kind of right in that tier also. And then the guy that I really like is Cole Ragans. He's the cheapest of all these guys. He's 5.4 on DraftKings. He's against Oakland, and he projects for 11% ownership. He projects as like the, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5th or 6th highest owned pitcher on the slate. And he's easily the best point per dollar guy. So Ragans I like a lot for cash. If you want to save money, I like him a lot in GPPs. I also think Domingo Germán and Germán Marquez and Framber Valdez, I think, are all going to be a little lower owned than they should be. And I like them all as GPP options.
Okay, excellent stuff. As always, Cards, what are your plans here in GPPs?
Yeah, pretty much in agreement on the rest of the guys. Ragans is your dart throw cheap guy with the friendly matchup. And, you look at his strikeouts in the majors so far in a handful of starts. He hasn't really struck anybody out, but did have a well above average strikeout rate in the minors. Quantrill simply because he's today's right-handed pitcher on the menu against the Tigers. And I'm going to mute for a second because I have to sneeze.
Oh, that's good. Sometimes when you think about it like that, you just never sneeze, and then
Oh yeah, it was
awkward.
there.
Good job.
We navigated that well to not kill everyone's eardrums. And I like Montgomery as well. He seems motivated since getting traded. He was like really upset when the Yankees kind of traded him basically out of the blue. There's 2 starts for the Cardinals. He hasn't given up a run yet, so can't argue with that. Very good matchup against the Colorado team that obviously isn't the same offense away from Coors Field. He's a little overpriced on FanDuel. I think if you're on FanDuel, you just play Quantrill over him. Or go up to one of the aces. But on DraftKings as an SP2, I think he makes sense. So I really don't have any disagreement with Carty or any real additional options. I mean, you're not playing Lauer. I haven't been big on Gonsolin and certainly not playing him while he's still a bit overpriced. Guys like Rich Hill, you're not playing tonight either. So,
okay. Quick sneeze hack from Derek. He says, if you can't get a sneeze out, look up at the light, and that does work. Conversely, if you're trying not to sneeze, if you think and picture an elephant in your head for some reason.
No, that's all just bogus.
No. This is not bogus. I'm
bogus.
not messing with you. I do this all the time. If you picture an elephant, it like distracts you from the sensation of sneezing, and you will not sneeze. I'm sure
Why
you
an
can
elephant?
picture.
I'm going to try
sure
it.
it could
I
be
don't think
anything.
it works.
No.
I was going to
I
say, I
swear
know
to
Carty
God.
isn't going to go for that.
No, yeah, I swear this works. Next time
Yeah,
you're about
and
to sneeze,
one of my
picture an
mom's
elephant.
former coworkers said you just have to say pickle like 5 times and then you won't sneeze. That doesn't work. Try that.
The
Elephant does not work. Why has it got to
Okay.
be an elephant? What if I want to picture a goat?
The goat.
or a
It doesn't
tiger?
work with a goat. It's got to be.
Why
an
does it have to
elephant.
be an elephant?
I don't know. I
You're full
don't
of
know the
crap.
science behind it. It's gotta be an elephant. Okay, guys, let's talk about some of the stacks that we're going with here and cards. I will let you lead off. You said you're kind of liking this slate. So what stacks are you kind of liking?
Yeah, I think tonight's a night where you could see some offenses that go a little bit under-owned, give you some upside. And it's another slate where really we don't have a whole lot of massive chalk in terms of like whole offenses being popular. You've got some individual bats that will go through, particularly for teams like Texas and the high-end guys for Houston that are going to have some ownership, but no full team that's going to be outrageously owned. So the stack that I think is going to win tonight is the one where maybe the secondary hitters are the plays that end up taking you over the top, right? If you stack Houston, you're not going to be the only one on Yordan Alvarez. You're not going to be the only one on Kyle Tucker, but maybe some of those other guys, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the lineup are the difference makers tonight. Or if you're on Texas, maybe it's not Seager and Semien who's really cheap on FanDuel again. You get the picture. Those are the teams I think that maybe grade out the best in terms of stacks. Houston particularly because Kopech can be wild. Don't be fooled by the fact that Houston doesn't have a very high team total tonight. Obviously explosive offense. Kopech has walk issues. So a team like Houston, I really like as a stack. The Dodgers, I really like as a stack. Eric Lauer is not a bad pitcher, but he's inconsistent, and it's the Dodgers offense. So these are teams that, Houston usually doesn't have a 4.3 run team total. The Dodgers usually don't have a 4.5 run team total. But in terms of stack potential, I like those offenses just as much as maybe a Texas that has a little bit higher of a number if you're simply looking at totals tonight. So Boston fits the bill for an upside stack as well. Cleveland is okay, but again, just like last night, not really an offense that I love to stack. I think you're looking for those explosive offenses. And for me, teams like the Dodgers, Astros, and Red Sox are probably what I'm looking at the most.
Okay, good stuff. Carty, what say you and what say the bat?
Yeah, the bat likes all 3 of those offenses. The Astros in particular project as the best of the night. They'll be fairly popular, but there's not going to be like any team that's super chalky tonight. So if you want to play Astro stacks, you can definitely make it work. The Mets against Odorizzi project well, and then there's probably 10 teams after that all project about the same. The Rangers and the Tigers in particular project well in that range and are super cheap, are really cheap for their prices. Mm-hmm. Texas is going to be potentially the highest owned team on the slate. Again, not overly chalky, but pretty owned. But Detroit is not. Detroit, I really like as a cheap, kind of unowned, well projecting offense tonight. And then there's a bunch of others that are in the mix here. Like you can play, like Boston or LA or the Yankees, like great offenses like that. And you can play offenses against pitchers that are going to be owned. Like you can play the Braves against Max Scherzer in tournaments tonight for sure. I like a Brave stack a lot. You can play, the Brewers against Tony Gonsolin, even though people think Gonsolin is good or that kind of thing. But there's a lot. It's very spread out tonight.
Okay, excellent. Let's go position by position, Carty. We will start with catcher. This morning we were playing someone named Big Dumper.
Did you say Big Dumper?
Big Dumper. That's the nickname of some guy that we played today. I had to Google it. It is not because he takes large dumps. It is because he's got a big dumper on him. It's just hilarious. So tell me who we're playing today now that we can't play Big Dumper.
Catcher is pretty gross today. On FanDuel, you're probably not playing a catcher unless you're just doing it to be different, to make your stack different, to just do something weird. Sean Murphy's the top guy, and on FanDuel, he's cheap enough, but he doesn't really project that well. He's against Raggins, who I actually, I like the Raggins side more than the Oakland side. The guy on DraftKings, though, is Mebris Valoria for Texas on the other side of that game. He's the bare minimum. He's 2K, and he projects as the second best catcher on the slate because catcher is just horrible tonight. He's against Adam Oller. He's against the worst pitcher on the slate, and he's min price, and you don't have to overthink it beyond that.
Okay, excellent. It's Cal Raleigh, by the way, in case you're curious, who is Big Dumper.
I was wondering who had that nickname. Okay.
I had to look it up. Next time you're considering rostering him, keep in mind that nickname and then definitely hit the lock button. That is the dude you want. Cards, what do you like at catcher?
We spent the time allotted to me talking about catcher, talking about sneezes and elephants, and I have absolutely nothing to add at catcher. It's that bad. Carty mentioned the 2 or 3 guys that you can plug your nose and play, and that's about it.
Great.
Or somebody in your stack. There you go.
Okay. Take me to first base then.
Yeah, at least gets a little better at first base. So one team I didn't mention in terms of stacks is the Giants. They never grade out particularly great as an offense, especially playing at home. Not the best park to hit in. But you're facing a low strikeout pitcher in Davies. Their hitters aren't overly expensive, slightly more expensive relatively than they were a week or two ago. But you still got somebody like Brandon Belt that's pretty cheap. They've got a few of their guys that normally start against lefties in the lineup, even against a righty tonight. So that limits some of the pinch hit risk. I probably wouldn't play him at first on FanDuel, but Wilmer Flores hitting third, even against a righty, I think is fine. You can play him at second or third also. Michael Chavis as a punt against the lefty is fine. If you're looking to spend up, nobody that you absolutely have to spend up for tonight, but Pete Alonso against Odorizzi would be my favorite. Odorizzi has long been a fly ball reverse splits pitcher, plays right into Alonso's strengths. That's my home run call tonight. One of them, I'll try to find a longer shot one than Pete Alonso, but a really good matchup for him tonight. So if I am spending at the position, he would be the guy I try to get.
All right, Carty, you like Pete Alonso. I can see it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. He's the top guy tonight. He doesn't project to be overly high owned. And so I like him a lot in tournaments. I think he's borderline cash viable on FanDuel. And so I like Alonso. But like Card said, we do have some good, cheaper and mid-range guys here. I really like Brandon Belt a lot also. He's a really good hitter, and he's very cheap, particularly on FanDuel, 2.6, but even 2.9 on DraftKings is really good. On DraftKings, we also have Nate Lowe for 3K. For Texas, who they're going to come up a lot because they are one of the better offenses tonight and the best point per dollar offense. So Nate Lowe against Adam Oller. Oller's the worst pitcher on the slate. It's a park downgrade for him. Lowe's hitting third. I don't think you have to think about spending up at first. You can just play Lowe or Belt, and that's pretty much it for cash. And then in GPPs, play the guys in your stacks. If you're stacking the Dodgers, play Freeman. If you're stacking the Yankees, play Rizzo.
Okay, easy enough. Take me to second base, Carty.
Jose Altuve is the top guy, but not a guy you probably have to prioritize. The Astros are the top offense tonight, so he's certainly going to be a big part of your stacks, but probably not for cash. Marcus Semien has been ridiculously cheap on FanDuel lately. He's 2-4 tonight against Adam Oller. I've mentioned this spot a lot, and it's not even like we're talking about like a crappy Texas hitter. Like Semien's one of the better second basemen in fantasy, and he's 2.4K. So I like him a lot. I like Brandon Lau a lot on FanDuel at 2.8 against Domingo Germán. And yeah, those are, I think, the clear top guys. Max Muncy now is 3.4K against a lefty. So he's not like an auto mention anymore, but I had to mention him anyway because it's fun that they finally raised his price.
Okay.
Yeah, even on DraftKings, Semien isn't as cheap, but at 4.3, he's still a good value. I think Wilmer Flores is interesting. I think Gleyber Torres is interesting. And if you need a punt, Christian Arroyo is still 2K.
Excellent stuff. Cards?
Yeah, a lot of these guys on FanDuel are multi-position eligible. Outside of Semien, Lau, and Altuve, almost any second baseman with ownership tonight is multi-position eligible. So you can maneuver them around like Arroyo. You can play at second, third, or outfield. Otherwise, I agree with the names that Carty mentioned. Maybe throw Nolan Gorman in there as well. Very hit or miss. He's going to strike out a lot, but when he hits it, they go a long way. And he's hitting fifth tonight for the Cardinals, so maybe throw in as a GPP one-off or something like that. Not a cash game play, though.
All right, take me to third.
All right. Third base is a better position than shortstop. So shortstop's pretty weak tonight outside of a couple guys. Third base, you've got some depth. You've got some choices. And, I mean, as it has been a lot of these slates, it's basically Ramirez and Devers at the top. They project almost identically tonight. So basically, and on FanDuel, they're both $4,200. So it's basically preference. And I'm not going to try to tell you that one's significantly better than the other. Ownership's going to be about the same. So obviously, if you're stacking, you can throw in whichever guy fits your stack. I slightly prefer Devers generally, but again, that's not a strong statement by any means. Josh Donaldson is 2.5K on FanDuel. I know the Yankees have been terrible lately, but he's 2,500, so don't mind a flyer there as a lower cost option. But really tough to not go away or to go away from the spends here. Ramirez and Devers just project so much better than all the other third basemen tonight, and you should have the salary. If you're saving at catcher, you can save at second, you can save at short, you can save in the outfield. So, as usual, a position where I'll probably be spending.
Okay, I
had someone ask me yesterday. Sorry, just the Yankee thing. I had someone ask me yesterday, when is the back gonna stop treating the Yankees like they're good, or like when is the back going to realize the Yankees are bad, or something like that? And I'm like, come on. I think he might have been half joking, but I can't. Like everyone, like they were so good for the first half of the year, and they were clearly overperforming. And now that they're regressing a little bit, people are like, the Yankees are bad now. It's like, no, they're not bad now. It's small sample size. It's baseball.
It's not surprising, and especially being that it's the Yankees, you're going to get all of the overreactions in all the directions. I was about to sneeze, by the way. I pictured an elephant. I did not sneeze. I just want that noted for the show.
That's a blatant lie.
You're serious.
Lost all credibility.
My eyes are watering from the almost sneeze, but I held it in as I pictured the elephant. Carty, what do you like at third?
Basically the same thing Card said. Ramirez and Devers at the top. Donaldson's a good cheap guy on FanDuel. That's kind of it. Michael Chavis and Brad Miller as alternate cheap guys, but that's kind of third.
Okay, then go to shortstop. And before you get there, I want to read this comment from Generic, who just says, man, shortstop is terrible. So have fun with it. What do you like at third?
I don't think shortstop is necessarily terrible. We have Trey Turner against a lefty, so he's certainly viable in tournaments. And then we have Corey Seager, who's always a good option. And Texas is one of the best offenses of the night tonight. They're facing Oller. So he's 3.7 on FanDuel. So he's an insanely good play there. And even at 5.1 on DraftKings, he's a good play. I don't think, the tier below those two is like anything special. Like Ahmed Rosario is okay. It's a decent stolen base spot. Javi Baez on FanDuel is always viable as a cheap guy, taking a shot for a home run. And a lot of these Giants are cheap. So Brandon Crawford's 2K on DraftKings, 2-2 on Fanduel against Zach Davies. So I like him on the low end.
Okay. Cards, what do you like at short?
Yeah, that's most of the plays there. Seager is definitely my priority. Unless if I'm stacking Mets, Lindor's fine. If I'm stacking Boston, Bogarts is going to be in there. But otherwise, Crawford as the cheap guy for the Giants at 2,200 on FanDuel. Seager's a spend. I don't mind maybe somebody like Javi Baez as a GPP flyer, and Quantrill's going to have some ownership and isn't this massive strikeout pitcher. So if Baez gets a hold of one, we know he can take it out of the park. And with shortstop, being a little thin tonight, I think Baez is reasonable in GPPs.
All right. That brings us to the outfield. So just kind of catching up on questions. Tell me what you like in the outfield, Cards.
Yeah, as usual, outfield is pretty loaded. I mentioned the Houston guys at the top of the show, so they're certainly fine. Alvarez and Tucker. Even McCormick, if you need it to complete a stack, is basically min salary. Again, one of the things where a lower owned hitter towards the bottom of the order maybe makes a difference in the stack tonight. Benintendi's leading off for the Yankees against Kluber. He's fine as a mid-range play. Jock Peterson batting second for the Giants. So those are a couple guys that you can maybe use as value plays. Lars Nootbaar is leading off for the Cardinals. They've been using him as a leadoff hitter against righties lately. So he's in play as a value. He's one of my favorites. Maybe Brian Reynolds as well for the Pirates. So I think you get your favorite spend out of kind of that Alvarez, Tucker, throw Aaron Judge in there as well. And then, you've got plenty of kind of mid-range and value options as well.
Okay. What is your favorite spend of that? Like
just individually, it'd be Alvarez in terms of point per dollar projection. I mean, on FanDuel, he's 900 cheaper than Judge. I just don't like Kopech all that much. So it would be Alvarez for me. But I don't think you need to drop everything to get him if you can't fit him.
Gotcha. Okay. Carty, what do you like?
I like the Houston guys a lot, all three of them. I like Judge. I like the Boston outfielders, Verdugo and Tommy Pham. Brad Miller is outfield eligible for 2K on FanDuel, and we love Texas bats. Other cheap guys, we have Kerry Carpenter, who's min price on FanDuel. We have Oscar Gonzalez in a pretty good spot. That's kind of outfield, and then in your stacks kind of thing.
Okay, you mentioned Kerry Carpenter. Moore said, is he worth a shot in cash if he gets you everything else?
He's cash viable. I think he's definitely cash viable. He's not like a lock button, but he's in play.
Okay. Let's play one stack to win it all. I think, Carty, yours would be Houston, but
Houston's not going to be sneaky.
What was it, Detroit?
Yeah, give me Detroit. You're going to get a little leverage off of Quantrill. They're really good point per dollar. I think Detroit's good.
Okay, Cards, one stack to win it all. What say you?
I'm glad somebody else said Detroit's good, because I know from experience and trying it never works. Tonight's the night I'm going to be mad because I've tried it way too many times. I will go. I agree with the Houston logic, but I will go with the Dodgers.
Okay, very good, gentlemen. That gives us just about 10 minutes to take some QQs. So let's do it. Scrolling out just a wee bit here to NBA DFS, FanDuel Cash, Carty, Wade, and Nate Lowe, or Nootbaar and Yandy Diaz.
Nate Lowe and someone other than Wade. All those Giants guys. First, Wade's not very good, and I think there's going to be some pinch hit risk there. So find someone else. Okay,
great. Cards, FanDuel Cash from Sherman's Tanks, Wade Jr. Oh, well, that's the same spot we just were at. Wade Jr. and Oscar Gonzalez, or McCormick.
Lamont Wade's 59% pinch hit risk. Like, you're never playing him in cash ever in your life.
So you're playing the second one, despite not knowing who those choices are. I am playing the second one.
It was McCormick and Jock.
Jock has a high pinch hit risk too.
Yeah, I like the Giants as a tournament stack, but I would go. There's so many value outfielders. I mean, I'd go Benintendi, Nootbaar, Oscar Gonzalez was in one of those, but you can get one of those guys instead of the Giants guys.
Okay. Timmy Tebow says Carty, DK Cash, Davis Judge, or Devers Gonzalez.
Davis. I'm trying to figure out what Davis we're talking about. Davis Judge or who Gonzalez?
Devers.
So we're probably talking about JD Davis.
Yeah.
So Davis Judge or who in Devers?
Gonzalez.
I think Gonzalez Devers.
Okay, excellent. Any interest in Nick Allen?
Not really.
Okay, apparently he is not built like a typical baseball player. Jay says, hey, Cards, in a DK single entry, will the Astros be owned enough to possibly fade Altuve from my 5-man stack to try to get different? That's a good question.
I mean, I don't think so. I'm not worried too much about ownership tonight. I mean, we've got Altuve around 10 or let's see, 9% ownership. Like I wouldn't worry about that. Like if you don't want to play Altuve in your stack, that's fine. And if you're playing Altuve, Alvarez, Tucker, it does get kind of expensive. And Alvarez would be the one that I make sure I play in the stack. Otherwise, you can mix and match.
Okay. Ted says, Roth, can you be more specific about Scherzer and the weather? Not really. It's dry right now in Atlanta. There's nothing for me to look at or analyze. High-resolution forecast models pop some downpours over the ballpark. As a general rule, I don't trust models knowing where those storms are going to pop up. But there's certainly a chance that it pops up over the ballpark, and then we'd get a delay. But I don't know if they're going to pop up near the ballpark, on the ballpark, pop up at all. So it's not the safe play. But if you want to do it in tournaments, I don't think it's a crazy risk either. I wish I could give you more details, but there's nothing to look at. It's just forecast models. Achilles, DK Cash, Carty, you want Valoria, J-Ram, and Reynolds, or Langoliers, Devers, and Garcia?
I'll take the first one.
Is that supposed to be Longoria, or is there really
no?
a dude named
There's a
Langoliers?
catcher named Langoliers.
Okay. All right. Okay. DKGPP Cards. Fick Nostrum says McNeil, Lindor, or Nimmo to finish a Met stack, and then Simeon, Trey Turner, or Tucker as a one-off.
Semi and Trey Turner, they can't be around the same price. All right. This question is loaded, and I'm not sure whether the answer to number 2 depends on the answer to number 1.
Right.
I would go with Lindor probably. Was it Lindor, Nimmo, or McNeil?
It was.
So I'd go with Lindor, which he's presumably more expensive, and that's going to mean you need to take the least expensive of the second options. It's a confusing question, but Lindor is the Mets choice. Follow up on the other if you need to.
All right. All right. If you can only play one 4v4 stack on FanDuel, would you rather, Carty, go Yankees, Cleveland, or Houston, Texas?
Houston, Texas is better, but they're probably going to be 2 of the higher owned offenses on the slate. So you can't play that with Rodon. You probably can't play that with Scherzer. I think you have to play that with an off the board pitcher if you're going to do that. So I think it's easier probably to go Yankees, Cleveland, and a good pitcher, but you can go either way.
Okay, good answer. Rhino, FanDuel single entry cards. We've got about 3 minutes left or so. Oscar Gonzalez, Chris Taylor, or Newt Barr?
It's close between Gonzalez and Newt Barr. It'd be one of those two. I'd probably play Newt Barr, but it's close.
Okay. Jay Frey says DeYoung or Dickerson in a card stack DKGPP. I don't know if that's 2 questions or 1 question.
Yeah, that's one. That'd just be 1 question. Dickerson is horrible, and DeYoung at least might hit you a home run if he gets a hold of one. So give me DeYoung.
Great. Okay. Carty, FanDuel GPP Greatness says, any interest in a Boston stack? Sorry if this was already answered. I don't think it was.
Yeah, definitely. I think Boston's one of the better stacks tonight. There's below kind of Boston is very firmly in the mix tonight. There's a bunch of teams that project pretty much the same, and you can play any of them. Boston's one of them.
Okay, D-Rock, DKGPP cards. I need an outfielder. It's going to make you work for it. 3,200 or less to finish a Scherzer, Rodon, St. Louis lineup.
All right, so I had my lineup HQ on FanDuel, so I'm pivoting over to DraftKings here, and we need an outfielder at where?
3,200 or less.
I mean, there's plenty of guys in there. Presume if he's got a Cardinal stack, he's already got Nootbaar. Verdugo is 2,900, hitting cleanup for Boston. He's probably the choice.
Okay, perfect. DK single entry 2v2 Carty. You want Murphy and Pinder or Valoria and A. Garcia?
One more time for me.
It's Murphy and Pinder or Valoria and A. Garcia.
It's probably Valoria Garcia.
All right. J. Sam's, FanDuel cards. Any interest in David Peralta with Low or Lau as a mini stack since German doesn't look good versus left-handed bats? I butchered that, but hopefully you understood it.
Yeah, I don't know. Peralta hasn't been very good for quite a while now. I just don't love that Tampa lineup. It's okay, but it just doesn't do much for me.
Okay.
For what it's worth, Herman projects as a reverse splits guy, so the lefty thing doesn't even necessarily hold water.
Okay. Michael says, Carty, is 4 Giants in a build too much on FanDuel? I got 4 Giants, 3 Stros, and a one-off, but I'm worried about that pinch hit risk for Giants.
Well, yeah, that's always a thing with the Giants. You're not playing any of them in cash except for Belt, probably, or Crawford, maybe. But in a GPP, you can do it. You hope they don't get pinch hit for. You hope they do their damage before the pinch hit. Like you can stack Giants for sure.
Great. Okay. Less than a minute until lock. A few more questions coming in. Cards. Steve O says DK GPP with a Met stack. Would you go Montgomery Alonso or Valdez Vogelbach?
I think you got to get Alonso in there.
Gotta get Big Meat Pete in there. Come on now. DK Cash, Carty, Reynolds or Benintendi?
Probably Benintendi, but they're both fine.
Jay Sam says, Carty, who's your very favorite FanDuel GPP pitcher?
It's probably Quantrill or Raggins. One of those two.
Okay.
Probably
What is Raggins on FanDuel? What's his price?
He's 6'3". It's not as valuable as it is on DraftKings, but it's still, I like him quite a bit there, and he projects for pretty low ownership.
Okay, excellent stuff, guys. We're coming up on the lock. In fact, we just hit the lock, and we answered all the questions, and we gave out all the plays. I know that the Atlanta game does not start for another 15 minutes or so. If I see anything popping up, I will sound the alarm on Twitter. I don't expect I will because radar is still quiet for now. But bottom line is, you got a chance for a delay. With that, I think we're going to get on out of here. So for Cards and for Carty and for our wonderful production team, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.